The Powerful Life. Part 1. An article from Wattles out of the Nautilus magazine. There are two kinds of people in the world, those who count and those who do not. The vast majority are of those who do not count. They are born. They grow to maturity. They eat, drink, sleep, and work. They marry and are given in marriage. They laugh and are happy, and they are sick and miserable in turn. They die, and except as they leave behind them children to do as they have done, it is as if they had never lived at all. They are the children of circumstance, the creatures of environment. Their lives are ordered for them by custom and habit. They think the thoughts and imitate the actions of those with whom they chance to be associated. They exercise no power beyond that which is common to their fellows. They leave no footprints on the sands of time. When the census is taken, they are counted. But insofar as a really distinct individuality is concerned, they do not count. It would answer as well to take their census in blocks of 10 as one by one, or to reckon them by the hundreds like sheep, for sheep have almost as much individuality as they. They may be more or less happy, more or less useful, more or less successful. But even though they gain wealth, they do not count, for their riches do not give them a distinct personality. Over against these are the few who lead the powerful life. These are the real movers of things. They are known and felt. It is not that they are superior to the others in education or talent, for they are not. Some of the most powerful people in the world show little of talent or genius and have none of what the world calls education, while some of the educated are ineffective. The power which makes people count is neither physical nor mental. It is not conditioned on strength of body or of mind. It is not a special gift. The effective ones are not so because they use a power which is denied to others, but because they use a power which others have but do not use. It is said of Jesus that his word was with power, and there went a power out from him. This unknown young carpenter, coming from a backwoods village, having neither authority nor influential friends, spoke words which shook the whole social and religious structure to its foundations, and yet he really taught no new doctrine. All that he said had been said before. It was his personality which stirred Jerusalem and not his doctrine. We see similar things every day in the ordinary affairs of life. One man says something and says it well, but the world goes on unheeding. Another man says the same thing, perhaps with blundering tongue and uncouth words, and all men pause and hear with bated breath, for he speaks with power. One man writes a book of truth, faultless in style and diction. The world reads and lays it calmly down, saying only that it is very good. Another man writes the same things with far less of scholarship, and the book is a living thing on all men's tongues, for every reader feels the touch of power. Two men take up their abode in a community. One is a man of education and ability, and his advent is heralded with a flourish of trumpets. He comes well advertised. But he is soon lost to view in the common life. He becomes merely one among others. With all his gifts, he does not make his individuality felt. He does not exercise power. The other comes, perhaps poor and unknown, possessing little of education or training. But in a few months his name is known to every man, woman, and child, and there is talk of running him for public office. He has this subtle, indefinable, almost incomprehensible something which I am trying to describe. His word is with power. Power is not conditioned upon special mental or spiritual gifts, nor upon righteousness. One of the most powerful men I ever met was a gambler and a most unscrupulous political boss, a man whose name, synonymous with dirty politics, was execrated in half a dozen states. He was not, of course, without his good traits, but they were greatly overshadowed by his evil ones. Yet he had power. There was power in the keen glance of his eye and in the low tone of his voice, power in the firm grasp of his hand, and power radiated from his whole personality. Many a time I have felt him come silently into a room where a score of people were gathered, and turning my head to look have found him there. You did not have to see or hear him to know when he was near. He could be felt. This unscrupulous man was like Jesus in that there went a power out from him, but he was different in that it was not a healing power, and he lost it in time, dying friendless and alone in dreadful circumstances. The career of Napoleon illustrates again the fact that power is not conditioned on righteousness. Consider how marvelous his performance was. A poor young Corsican lieutenant, then general of armies, dictator of France, emperor of half the world. In a dozen years he shook the world, and when he was banished to St. Helena, he carried with him the homage of millions. He was one of the most powerful men who ever lived, and yet he was one of the most unscrupulous. He played fast and loose with men and with women. He broke his promises without compunction. He was guilty of every kind of treachery, yet he lived in his power, a marvelous demonstration of the truth that the effective life is conditioned not on righteousness but on power. It is not always easy to distinguish between righteousness and power. Often they go hand in hand, but not always. There are many men who are righteous but not powerful, and many men who are powerful but not righteous. Yet, all things considered, the greatest power is with the righteous. The effective life is the righteous life. The highest example of a powerful life is Jesus. He lived perfectly. He was the most powerful man who ever lived. We are inclined to put righteousness first and power second, to say that the effective life is conditioned on righteousness. This is true, but we must not forget that power is also a condition of righteousness. A man can be good only when he is strong. A strong man is always a good man. The greatest service a man can render to his fellow man is to be strong. The effective life is the strong life. End of article.